Coming up on Columbus Connection, we are coaching youth from the inside. Stay tuned. Welcome to Columbus Connections. I am your host, David Britt, and today we are talking about coaching youth who are good athletically. Now, you have some students, have a child, they're good athletically in whatever sport they may have. Part of that athleticism is you want them to progress, right? But not only physically, you don't want them to just run faster, you don't want them to just hit harder or whatever their sport is. You want them to progress mentally. What do you do when you're losing? Do you fight? Do you give up? Do you get mad? How do you handle victory? How do you handle success? How do you handle self-confidence? All of that are those things that we hope they learn from sports. But sometimes we focus so much on the physical aspect, we don't focus on the spiritual or the mental. That is, except for Coach John Bam Rivers, and he is with me today. He's going to talk about his camp and going to just give you some insight into him and let you all see why he is so passionate about what he does. Welcome back to the show.
David, what's up, man?
Yeah, pleasure,
Always a pleasure. I appreciate you, brother.
So I'm going to just push the start button and just let you go ahead because I know you are full. But tell everybody who you are and what you represent.
Well, again, who I am is just a servant. You know, I'm here to serve. And just a quick backstory on Camp Renaissance. You know, I graduated from Shaw High School in 2000, and I was blessed with some great coaches. You know, didn't have a father growing up, so the men in my life that were my coaches were very imperative in my growth as an individual. So one specific coach, along with Coach Flowers, was Coach Alton Pitts. Now, he wasn't only one of my football coaches, but he was my English teacher. So one day as I walked into his classroom, he looked at me and he said, you know what, Mr. Rivers, after a game I had the day before where I really played well, he says, you know what, you're very good in football and baseball. You do well in class. You're a man of character. He says, you're really a Renaissance man. So I think about that. That was back in 1997 in my freshman year in high school. And now we're in 2017. So we're talking about 20 years later. Right. I've never forgotten what he said. So my desire is not to only coach athletes in terms of increasing their athletic prowess, but I want to help increase their character, their leadership skills, their servant skills, the opportunity for them to pour into other people that will help build themselves. So
let's talk
the biggest thing about it.
Why that is so important. You mentioned in high school, and sometimes you see the high school kid who's really gifted with that sport, and they get arrogant, they get stuck on themselves. There are hundreds of movies about it. That person gets injured, and then they're dealt such a big blow. Right. So talk about why it is so important, that mental aspect of the game.
Well, I think because you have to have a foundation. You know, you can't build a house without having a solid foundation, right? You can't have a relationship with somebody without having a solid foundation. So if that foundation is void, then what will you stand on? And if you're not mentally strong, and I'm not saying, listen, adversity happens to everybody. Right. And I think that's why we have to look at adversity as an actual gateway and a benefit rather than a roadblock, because it is an opportunity, and those are opportunities for you to become stronger, for you to become smarter, for you to become a little bit more in tune with how life works, because life isn't fair. But you know, the thing about it is life is not fair to everybody. Right. Everything happens. Life happens on a daily basis. So when you start to train young men and women on how to develop mental toughness, or how to develop that internal drive, to be driven by things that are not seen, intangible. Because if you put somebody in something in front of somebody, David, that's tangible, and then you take it away and their motivation leaves, then where was their foundation in the first place? So you want them to understand what it takes to build from the inside out. Because if you have any type of football team or a basketball team or a baseball team, you always build from the inside out. Right. Or you always build up the middle. The core of your argument, the core of your body has to be strong for the rest of it to stand. So I'm just really big on serving others and helping them understand why internal drive and internal understanding of whom God has called you to be is so very important.
So how do you do it, especially with youth, because you do train for physical, you train for the sport as well as the mental. Right. How do you do both of those at the same time?
Well, it's because that's what coaching is. And I know for a lot of people that are out there that coach, they understand that it is something, it's a dual threat. Like, you know, we want our athletes to be dual threats, or in baseball, you want them to be 5-tool baseball players who do a variety of different things. But when somebody's making a play and they make a mistake, when you're correcting them, you have to also coach and love them at the same time. So you can tell somebody what they did incorrectly while still building them up. They're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to tear somebody down just to tell them they did something wrong. And during my camp, not only train them, like you said, with the skill sets, agility, and speed, but throughout the camp, we're speaking. And we're speaking positive things. I tell kids when they make a mistake, don't tell me don't apologize because you didn't do it on purpose. You're out here working. That's why we're working. Tell yourself you can do this. Listen, I tell them, look at the field. 2 hours ago, you were dead tired and you didn't think you can do it, but where are you right now? And they say, I'm at the end of the camp because you made it. That's a success. And then in the last 30 minutes, we always have what's called our Rivers Logic session. And we sit down, we talk specifically about them, their character, their fears. We talk about their aspirations. We talk about where they want to be in life, whom they want to be in life, how they will impact other people's lives. Because if you're consciously thinking on those things, then those things will eventually happen. I can't tell you how, I can't tell you when, and I can't tell you where, but I know that you have to speak those things as if they were. And when you do that in a positive way, positive things will ultimately happen.
That's interesting that you speak on to them because, you know, a lot of kids, they go to they get coached, they get mentored, but sometimes the mentor is just talking and talking and talking, and you can be, and we've heard those things, but sometimes the kid doesn't get to say what's important to them or what their fears are, or they don't trust that mentor with those fears. So that's part of your coaching to bring that out of them as well.
And I love that you said trust, okay, because you have to think about this. I've coached kids 5 or 6 years old, you know, with my children and other people's children all the way up to high school. And if there's no relationship, if there's no camaraderie, then you won't get anything from them. And there are 3 words I think about when I speak about that, and that's simply earn the right. You have to earn the right to be heard, right? You have to earn the right to share your experiences. You have to earn the right to correct somebody because it's easy for you to speak, but it may not be easy for that individual to listen because you don't have an attachment to their heart. And I'm not saying you have to make up something to make it seem as if you know what they're going through. If you don't know what they're going through, tell them, I don't know what you're going through, but I'm still here for you. Sometimes just understanding being a presence is the biggest thing that can change a young man or young woman's life, just being there. When they see you and you're visible and they know that you're available for them, that in itself can change their lives. Regardless of what you've taught them in terms of playing football, those are the aspects of life that they will remember long after they take off the pads or put up the sneakers or put down the baseball or softball bat.
And you're speaking this from experience.
Absolutely.
You talked about that you were an athlete in high school, but you went to Auburn University.
Right.
And you got into your coaching and motivational speaking. You were working at a job, but you had this desire to do this, and you stepped out and did it.
Right, and that's what it is about stepping out on faith. I think from education to the banking industry, I loved working in the business field, but I knew that it wasn't my purpose. And I knew that when doors closed in my life, they weren't actually closing, it was just God opening more doors. You know, he wasn't telling me no to something else. He was telling me yes to my purpose. And that's what I would encourage everybody else to do as well, because Camp Renaissance is also a camp of purpose. I want these young men not to only think about things intentionally and on purpose, but I want them to live their life on purpose. When you wake up in the morning, have a mindset of what you want to accomplish that day. I don't care if it's simply going to school and making it to class on time every single day. That is a success. I want you to go to practice and say, I'm going to work harder than I did yesterday. That is a success. So those are the intangible behaviors that will lead you to the tangible results that a lot of people desire. So for those who are chasing tangible results, I'll say, listen, if the tangible results can be removed and you're no longer motivated, where was your foundation? Like I said, be driven internally and understand that who you are matters. Like who you are can be transcended in this world. But believe that you have been called to be somebody extraordinary and stop wasting time trying to copy somebody else. I don't want to waste money because it wastes money. If I go to the copy machine, it takes me money. But it's not going to take me money to be the original.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? That's who I am. That's who God has called me to be. So that is the type of mindset I like to instill in our youth and our people that are growing up in this city and in this world.
When is the camp? Where is it located?
Well, the camp, first of all, is located at River City at Britt David Park here in Columbus, Georgia. And the camp is generally a one-on-one camp because everybody has different needs. But I do also hold camp for individuals either between 1 and 5 at a time because I like the smaller type scenario because you get to know people more. It's a more intimate setting. The camp resumes on the 9th of December, which is this Saturday, because I actually started in the summertime, had a whole lot of support, was blessed by a whole lot of people, so I want to continue doing it until I die, to be honest with you. So during school, though, I will only do it on Saturdays because I do not want to monopolize school time. Right. I know a lot of these young men just got finished playing football, some are about to be playing basketball, and I want to give them and their parents time to rest, and I want them to focus on school first and foremost. which of course is the epitome of being a Renaissance athlete, being well-versed, not only athletically, but academically.
Now, is your coaching, is it just football or just baseball, or what do you coach?
Well, Camp Renaissance is strictly for football.
Okay.
While I do coach football and baseball, but again, the mental and the emotional and motivational training is for anybody. So Camp Renaissance itself is geared towards football and those aspects of football. But in terms of me building Renaissance people, that's open to anybody. So, you know, that's the whole thing about it. It can be catered to whatever individual and what they need. So I'm just here to try to serve, here try to build an opportunity and to send people to different heights in this world that they didn't believe they had because it's inside of them. Sometimes we just need to help them realize who they are.
Gotcha. And how can people contact you?
Oh, they can give me a call directly at 706-593-7800. They can also visit my website. It's www.jonathanbamrivers.com. And my email address is jonathanrivers@jonathanbamrivers.com. So you can find me on Facebook, Jonathan Rivers Motivational Speaker, Twitter, Instagram @JBamRivers. Just Google me at Jonathan Rivers and hopefully something pops up. You know, hopefully I've helped enough people that you'll find something. So I'm truly blessed to be here, man. You've known me for a long time, and like I say, priorities have changed now.
Yeah.
And it's time to help people. So I appreciate you having me, appreciate having the opportunity to really speak to this world. And I just continue to pray for the abundance that you have and that everybody here has as well.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Let's end with a success story, because I know you speak to so many people. What if someone has a child at home, they're gifted athletically, but maybe there's so many issues that there could be.
Right.
Maybe whether they have arrogance because they're so good, or they have the size and the speed but not the confidence.
Right.
Whatever it is, mentally and spiritually, they're just not where they need to be.
Right.
What can they do to get them to that point?
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. A young man who played this year in football at River City, this was his first year ever playing. And his mother and his father were doing some research, and they came across my camp and my program. And when I tell you that the level of love and support that they've shown for me, they're Angela and John Jenkins, their son Connor, who had never played football before, the only thing that they would always tell me after camp was, I've never seen my son so confident in himself. I've never seen my son so amped up about this before. And he loves football, but now he believes in himself so much. And I got to speak to his football team before their championship game, and they actually beat a team that was undefeated and had beaten him 3 times before. The thing about it is, in his mind, he knew he was good, but he learned how to believe in himself. And this is a very well-rounded young man to be simply 7 years old. So I think that success is what encourages me to keep going, because I noticed that when I'm pouring into someone else's life, God is placing people in my life to pour into me, even if I'm not aware of it. So that's, I think, is one of the biggest successes, just knowing that people are continuing to pour into your life when you take the time to pour into theirs. So I think that is what you will actually get out of the camp, understanding why it's great to serve. Because if you're doing it out of obligation, you're not serving. But if you're doing it out of the willingness to love others, then that is serving. And you don't know leadership unless you know service.
There you have it, folks. If your child has a coach that is not teaching them the mental aspect and how to be mentally strong, find another coach. John Bam Rivers is one of those great coaches who can. Thanks for watching. This is Columbus Connections.